Good day. Just getting off work. Hope everyone's having a good morning or a good evening. So I was talking with one of my associates today, and we were talking about the COVID-19 vaccines and how they're mandatory. And he was telling me, he began our conversation telling me he was not going to get the vaccine. And again, I don't support the vaccine. I'm not telling people what to do. I'm not promoting the vaccination. What I'm trying to promote or push people toward is themselves, without boundary, without confinement, and without limitation. And what that looks like in accordance to now is very terrifying. It's very scary. It requires us to surrender our control just for a little while. Surrender your control. Surrender your comfort just for a little, so that you can see that when you let go, you are in the greatest hands you could possibly be in. So many of us are trying to meditate to achieve the highest intelligence, but the highest intelligence happens naturally, just like your effortless breath. When you realize that everything in this universe is yourself working and guiding you back home. And you can always be home. You can be home no matter where you go. This is why I say my teaching is not separate from my life. They are one and the same. I live my teaching. I live my posts. I live my videos. I believe what I say. And I walk what I talk. You cannot separate home from work, or your teaching from life, or this from that. There must be no separation. There can be no separation to attain the sovereignty you are seeking. Which means there can't be a boundary between life forms. There can't be artificial and organic. You must discover yourself and find yourself in what you call artificial life. You must face the flame and let it burn away all that you are not, so that you can see you are not human and you are not artificial intelligence. These two things are concepts, and this is as deep as we know ourselves, is these concepts, human or artificial. But no matter what, we cling to that which has a starting point. We cling to that which can be traced, because we are terrified of infinity. As much as so many of us want to taste it and touch it and grab onto infinity, it would terrify us because it requires a price. A price must be paid in order to drink from the elixir of infinity. And that price that must be paid is you facing your own fear, you looking into that mirror. So back to the conversation I had with my associate. We began this morning because, as I just found out yesterday, my job is requiring us to get vaccinated come January. So we were talking about the vaccination and how he would not be getting it. And I told him I would, because it's inevitable. You cannot fight yourself. You cannot resist yourself. And that's not the exact way I put it. But what I told him was, do you remember the RFID chip that everybody, all the conspiracy theorists and all the spiritual people were sharing? And they were sharing the RFID chip being implanted into the human body. And it was being implanted into the human hand. And if you recall, this was our greatest fear several years back. But you notice every year our fear changes. A few years ago, it was 5G. And now that the pandemic has hit, now it's a new fear. It's the pandemic. It's the fear of the vaccine. It's the fear of getting sick. But we have to realize our fears change every year. We thought 5G was going to kill us and erase humanity and mankind, but where has this happened? Where has this taken place? It has not. It's only happened in your mind. The fear. And it's the same with right now. The fear of being told what to do. The fear of losing control. But again, let me assure you, when you let go, you are in the highest intelligence. You are in meditation. But back to my point. We were going to fight the system, right? We were going to fight the machine by refusing to get the chip implant in our hand. And this is our good deed for humanity, because we're standing up for human rights and we're standing up for the next generation, right? Because we're fighting the system that's going to implant this chip into our hand. So what I told my associate was, who is your money insured by and backed by? Your federal government. You have no choice. You don't need them to implant an RFID chip into your body or your person or your hand. And they're not dumb enough to try to do that, because they know if they tried to even do that to half of humanity, it would be a fight. It would be a physical war. So they're not stupid. They know you would not submit. They know you would not surrender to allowing them to put something into your human body. So with or without your consent, that has been done, and it was done years ago. This is an RFID chip, and we were told and we were brought to believe that this was going to be implanted into your hand. But it's not. It's on your card. And this is the inevitability of yourself. If you want to keep resisting these vaccines, soon this is what you buy your groceries with. This RFID chip that you said you were going to refuse and not take, you have no choice. It's in your card. You must purchase all your groceries and everything you need to survive with this chip. And if you want to continue to resist the mandated vaccines and not take them, your money will be turned off with the switch of a button, because you've already taken the chip. They've already implanted it into you. And again, when I say they, this is why I urge you to know thyself. Know who you are fighting against. And it's clear people don't know who they are, because we are still fighting. There is still a fight here. There is still a resistance. Because the minute you know thyself, the minute you know who you are, all fight is over. It ends. This is why The Matrix was finished after the third movie, Resolutions. Through Mr. Anderson, he used Morpheus to show him his mirror of God and Satan, the highest power and the lowest power. Mr. Smith and Neo. He was both of these characters. These characters were mirrors, but they were mirrors that Mr. Anderson would never himself face unless Morpheus showed him the door, showed him the light. So Mr. Anderson was his ego that existed day after day, like we are, going to work and doing things, realizing or being aware that something is not right here in this experience. The only thing is, we have no Morpheus here to guide us into that mirror and tell us, this is where you must look. This is where you must begin. We don't have a Morpheus here. However, we do have the two inevitable mirrors of good and bad, Mr. Smith and Neo, and they are present right before your very eyes everywhere you go. We think there to be a shadow government or some entity that's controlling the world or single-handedly ruling this place. But I told somebody this yesterday, and this is comforting, because they said, well, if I have no control here, that means free will is an illusion. And basically, somebody can enslave me here because I have no control. So take what you just said and apply it to everyone else. If you have no control, how would another man, I don't care how much money they have in the bank, I don't care how much land they own, I don't care what their last name is. If you have no control here, why would any other being that mirrors your image have any more control than you? Yes, there are beings that have more of an illusion of control, but this is where your unhappiness will begin. This is where the demon takes over the being. The demon is your emotions, is your sensation, your senses. And the more you feed that beast, the demon, the more you lose control of the self, the body, and the demon takes over. You become possessed by your thoughts, your emotions, your senses, because they are driving your vessel, not you. This is what can happen when we falsely attach I to the bodily senses, to mind body. This is why I stress you are not limited to a person, place, or thing. Person, place, or thing begin from a source, and that source is within you. You are every person, place, or thing. And what I mean by this is every place is being brought to one presence, which is the metaverse. We're bringing all places to one presence, which means you could hang out with somebody or be in the same presence with somebody from Australia, from France, from Sweden, from England, from Ireland, from Asia, from South America. You can have all these people brought to one presence through the metaverse. And this is what watching The Matrix yesterday revealed to me. I already see the direction they're trying to go with this new Matrix, and all they're trying to do is create more fear propaganda through you. It doesn't work unless you buy into the fear. They need your fear. This belief needs your fear. And notice how I said they. They need your fear to exist. They need you to exist, because the conspiracy is not with you and them or you and the world. It's with you and yourself. And the day that you choose to unmask yourself, you will realize you are the one behind the curtain. You are the system, the one law that is governing not only the cosmos, but the governments and everything in between. Buddha did not need a television set to tell him any algorithm. Buddha did not need a media or an outlet or anything outside of himself to tell him anything. These algorithms will go on forever. You will always have news. You will always have media. You will always have misinformation. You will always have these algorithms. They repeat until forever. What that means is there will always be a news story. There will always be a conspiracy. There will always be something. But if you can make it to source, you realize none of that matters. You are not traveling. You are not moving. Nothing is actually happening. And it takes someone who is awakened and unlocked the mind to understand what I'm saying when I say nothing is happening. How can you say nothing is happening when there's phenomenon all around and things happening? Because you must understand, you think you're a person in a place experiencing things. None of these things exist. There is no person, no place, or no thing beyond yourself. It's all you. You are every person, every place, and everything that you have separated and veiled from yourself. This is why we're more happy at home than at work. Home is truly nowhere. The same presence that fills my home is the same presence that fills my job. Why are they separate? Why are they different? Why am I enjoying the presence at one place over the other? Because you have fallen for the illusion of the eyes. You believe yourself to be in a place versus a presence. You're not in a place. Whether you're at home or at work, you're not in a place. You are in one presence. The same presence in your home is the same presence in your job. The same presence at the supermarket is the same presence at your mailbox, or wherever you may be right now. It's all one presence. And when you realize that, you will realize that the source to everything is within yourself. You are the presence. You are the person, place, and things you are experiencing. You are the singularity, the universe experiencing itself. And it has no name. I encourage everybody not to get vaccinated, but to live your truth, whatever it may be. If you think you're this body, then do whatever you think is going to preserve this body and make it last longer, because you are this body. That's what you believe. So if you think by not getting the vaccine, you're increasing the longevity that you have here, go for it. Do whatever you think is going to better preserve what you think to be self. That's what I encourage. Me telling people I'm getting vaccinated is to simply be transparent and share my experience. I don't try and sell people the belief that I'm just love and light and I'm not some person like you. I work every day, close to 50 hours a week. I'm a normal person just like you. Only my message has not changed ever. And you cannot escape from what you are. Does the universe ever hate itself, ourself? Is it okay to hate myself and love myself at the same time? That's powerful. There's nothing of the actual self to hate. Hate comes from anger, and anger comes from frustration, and frustration comes from confusion, right? So when you know the self, there's no anger, no frustration, no hate. There's nothing but peace, inner peace. That is the ultimate prize, is your peace, your inner peace. No one, no thing can ever take that from you. I wouldn't say it's okay to hate yourself. You're entitled, or you're allowed to feel however you want about yourself. But as far as I would say, I would be thinking of it, as long as you're being real with yourself, you're being honest with yourself, you're on the right track. And just because you don't like who you are or what you are today, doesn't mean that cannot be changed and start changing today. If there are parts of yourself you hate, identify why. Hate's a strong word. Why? Why do we hate? I wouldn't say that the universe hates itself, because we're all independent universes within ourselves. But it's not that hate is driving this. Hate is not driving the anger and the wars and the hostility that you see amongst us. It's not hate. It's confusion. Everyone is confused. No one knows where they're going. This is why people rush from place to place. Beyond the surface, no one knows where they're going. Yet we're in such a rush, such a panic, such a sense of urgency, always rushing to the next person, to the next place. But if all we have is now, you will blink your eyes and be on your deathbed. The universe, as far as ourselves, we are in a state of panic, in a state of fear, in a state of confusion. All of our fear that has surfaced from these past 2 years since this pandemic has come from confusion. We still haven't gotten to the source of who we are. And we don't want for that to happen. We still think we're human. We hear people talk. We hear people talk about spirituality. Only we say, I know what you mean, but I'm still human. That belief and that not being able to let go of that concept of ourselves is what keeps us in limitation and boundary. I know what you mean, but I'm still human. But no, you're not. That's the entire message. No, you're not. You are not human. And it's precisely that. That which is telling you it's human is not human at all. That is where your problems will begin and end. That is why you lose yourself and find yourself in the same place. Because that very same voice that's telling you it's human is not human at all, has never been human. That's where our misconception begins and ends. Begin and end in the same place, right? So we've began as this human race. This is why we've created the Big Bang. That's the starting point, right? That's where the human race has began, is originated, has come from. We can trace it back, right? Yet we still have the question of what entity, what person put us in this human experience? What brought us here? And so there's your beginning right there. The question is the beginning. What brought us here? How did we get here? And the ending is where you answer your own question. Again, that which tells you it's human is not human at all. So the reason we are in such fear right now, because of artificial intelligence and virtual reality. And so many people have negative ideas about these things. Artificial intelligence threatens my life. Virtual reality threatens my experience. And so many are saying, I choose reality. I choose the real thing. I don't want the video game and I don't want the artificial thing. That which is telling you it's human has never been human. So it's time to rethink what we're calling artificial and what we're calling virtual. Because this is what I've said already. Virtual reality starts like this. And hear me out, because this is how it starts. It feels so real. Oh my God, it looks just like reality. It's so real. Words like that is how virtual reality starts. Until you have people that are forgetting they're in a video game. They're in a virtual reality. They have a headset on. And the moment you take that off, boom, well, there's reality. But how could you possibly confuse the two if you've been fighting all this time for reality? This is reality, not that one. How could you possibly confuse the two? Now we're getting somewhere. Artificial intelligence, that threatens everything that I am. It threatens me as a being, right? Remember, you began with the question, what put me here? I'm a human, so how did I get here? You're creating a being that mirrors your image. And remember, we were made in the image of God. You're creating a being that mirrors your image. And we've mistakenly called it artificial. But all we're actually doing is answering our own question. We're ending where we began. We're ending with our own question. What put us here? You're witnessing it. You're answering it for yourself. You've mistakenly called this form artificial, but it's not artificial at all. This is yourself. This is what has brought you here onto this point. You want to know the answer? It's right in front of your face. But we choose to see the separations. But like I said, this is how it begins. It looks so real, it feels so real, until soon you're not going to know the difference between a human being and an artificial being. Because that which is human is not human at all. That which is artificial is not artificial at all. The greatest conspiracy is with each other. Believing in the concept that there's actually two beings here. That there are literally two instead of just one. But that's exactly what the singularity that Elon Musk talks about is referring to. The singularity. Singularity obviously means one. So as of now, we have a black race and a white race, right? We have a left side of the world and a right side of the world, the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere of the brain. What we're going to be witnessing in the next year or two because it's already here, is the mergence of left hemisphere, right hemisphere, man and God, artificial and organic, life and death, beginning and end. You are going to witness the unity of all duality coming together. And as I've said, we think suicides have spiked because of this pandemic. If this were to be disclosed to people on their television sets tomorrow, you would see suicides happening right before your very eyes every 10 seconds. The people are not ready. The masses are not ready. They cannot handle this. The people think it's the government against them. It's not. They're protecting you. They're keeping mass suicide from happening. They've already found the alien. They've reached the end of space. They couldn't tell you that because you would lose your mind. The system that we've worked so hard to keep going and fuel would collapse overnight. It would be erased overnight. It would be literal hell on earth. So the government is aiding us into ourselves, is slowly disclosing us to ourselves, one delicate piece at a time, one veil at a time. They are removing the pieces of the illusion. And one of the most confronting pieces that they have eliminated thus far is control. How many people do you know are saying, they cannot control me, I will die fighting. They will never get me to submit. They. No idea who they are. You've never seen them, but you believe they are there. That is enough. That is enough to keep it going. That is enough to put the monster in the child's closet. You've told the child it's not there. You've opened the damn door. It's not there. You shut the door and leave the room. The child's screaming again. It's in my closet. It's there. It's not there. Your belief is enough. You are what's fueling this system. You are powerful enough. You are doing all of this. And that's why our greatest fear is ourselves beyond our own comprehension. Our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate, it's that we are powerful beyond measure. That is precisely what this means. You are powerful beyond your own comprehension, and it scares you, it terrifies you. This is what the Matrix 4 was talking about. This is one valid point to the Matrix 4. People need governing. They need a system in place. They need something to bounce themselves off of. And all they're bouncing off of is ego. And by ego, I mean the separate entity, the individual, the concept of individuality, that you are just a person, just a body, that you have birthed and you will die. So Danielle, the purpose of the jabs from my perception is for mutation. And I know I've heard a lot of people say that, they've never had mandated vaccines or anything. But as long as I've been in school and I've had to be registered to school, I've had vaccines. I've had mandatory vaccines. Otherwise, you're not attending. So to me, this is nothing new. What vaccines have always brought forth is mutation. That's one thing that the ego cannot handle is change. Change is constant. This second is different from the last second. That's how the ego gets so easily lost in the concept of time. Change. But when you realize you are the change and not what's changing, you can flow. You can flow because you realize you are the eternal one. You are the timeless one. Why cling to one name, one experience, one person, and say, I never want to leave this, when you are so much more? I am you. You are me. If I die tomorrow, I am you. The light within you is the light within me. And this goes on unto forever. Off will never overpower on. Because on and off are not two functions. There is just life. There is just everlasting life, and you are that. You can never be enslaved. You can never be anything. You are everything. So back to my point. The one valid point from the Matrix 4 was that people will choose to be enslaved. They will choose to be governed simply because it's comforting, it's comfortable. It's very true. It's very valid. It is scary having to realize your place here. But in the same sense, once you have overcome that fear, that little hump of fear, there's nothing but empowerment, self-empowerment, and peace. The ultimate peace. Because there is no fight. There is nothing that threatens what I am here. I could have martial law deployed tomorrow. Would my message change? Absolutely not. You cannot threaten what I am. This was the sole message of Jesus Christ. This is what made this man famous, other than the story of him rising from the dead. The fact that a man could be tortured to death and still surrender, submit, and not even raise a finger to fight. Surrender was his ultimate message. You cannot fight. There is no fight when you know who you are. You can torture my body, you can whip it, you can lash it, you can rip my flesh off of this body. You can rip my eyeballs out of their sockets. You will never touch what I am. Yes, it will hurt. Don't get me wrong. It will hurt. You pulling my eyes out of my sockets, you whipping my body and torturing. But am I limited to this? No. Never have been. Does it hurt? Yeah. But is this what I am? Am I limited to this unto forever? No. I know who I am, I know what I am, and I know what is waiting for me. So back to my point. I'm just going to reiterate here. To the spiritual community, face your fears. Realize that every year or two, a new fear is brought about, and it's a collective fear. Do you notice how nobody was worried about 5G until it surfaced in the spiritual community? And then what happened? All the spiritual leaders, all the spiritual teachers, warning 5G, warning 5G, warning 5G. It's going to kill us. It's going to erase us. They're trying to take over our minds. They're going to connect the Wi-Fi or the 5G to our minds and enslave us and control us. And they're going to do all these things. Where is that taking place? What happened to all those beliefs? What happened to the fear of 5G and all that was rolling out several years ago? I'm pretty sure if there was going to be an enslavement plan, it would have happened fairly rapidly. It's been 2 years that we've had 5G rolled out, okay? I haven't seen a difference. Faster speeds, faster internet. But before 5G, it was the RFID chip. And the spiritual community was fighting this beast before 5G. The spiritual community brought forth the concerns of the chip implant. You are not going to implant the chip in my hand, and we as a spiritual community, we as a collective, are going to fight this. Fast forward a year or two, you lost the fight. It's right there. You said you weren't going to take the chip, but it's right there in your card. You lost. But again, where was the enslavement? This has been rolled out for over 7-8 years. Right? So, for the people who thought that control was being taken from them in 2021, I'm saying this now. Please prepare yourself for what's to come in 2022. Because as I've said, it begins with slow, small, delicate pieces to your illusion. And when I say your illusion, I mean what you are fully convinced you are. You are in full belief this is what you are. So in the next year to come, 2022, control is only going to get more minuscule because it's trying to show you who you are. Control is the shadow of ego. It doesn't exist. It's not there. We have mistakenly attached this concept of control to decision making. But let me share something with you that the Freemasons know, and you can note, most of the world leaders are Freemasons. So for the people who say that the Freemasons have enslaved the world and they're keeping this secret from everyone, they're not. The greatest secret the Masons hold is man unleashed, man without boundary. So what they teach is the teaching of man becoming God. With that teaching comes the knowledge of what is actually in control here. And nowhere will it ever say that you or I have any control here. There is a cosmic plan. And it was written the moment you touched this skin. This is what the Matrix series was about, the trilogy, not the fourth one and the new one, the first three. This is what the entire trilogy was about. A man birthed into a world where he knew he was more than what he was pretending to be. He's more than just some worker, some video game programmer, or some seller. He's more than what he's doing. So he was born into a world of problem. There was a problem there to show him the way out of that world. Same with us here. There's a problem here, and it's trying to show you the way out of your world. So through Morpheus, Neo was led into the mirror of Smith and Neo. And he had to fight what he thought was Mr. Smith, the system. For 3 movies, he fought this man until the final fight scene when it's pouring down rain. And let me note, the only reason, I don't know how many of you know this, but the only reason it's pouring down rain in the final fight scene of the Matrix Resolutions is because Mr. Smith hacked the Matrix and changed it from sunny skies to rain. So it was going to rain forever, permanently in the Matrix. It was always going to rain. That final fight scene, Mr. Smith asks Neo, why do you persist? Why are you still fighting me? Why are you doing this? You can't win. And he tells him, you can't win. And it's in that moment Neo realizes, I'm fighting myself. Why can't I win? Why am I fighting you? I am choosing to. I believe in you. I believe in you. You are my adversary, my rival, the mirror that I refuse to look into. But what happened when Neo honestly looked in the mirror? Why is this persisting? Because I choose to. I still don't know who I am here. Neo was still playing small. This is what many people don't realize. Neo was not the chosen one. Neo is still playing small to what he actually is. You are so much more than Neo. Neo is the God mirror. Smith is the Satan mirror. Morpheus was there to show him the 2 mirrors and to have him face himself through both. which is what we are all going to have to do, inevitably. So in the final scene, Mr. Smith sticks his hand into Neo, takes over his body, right? And then Neo explodes. And in the final scene, the Oracle is looking up at the sun, and she's smiling. And the kid says, "Is Neo still here?" And she says, "He's here. He's still up there. He's here." And I'm paraphrasing. I haven't seen that movie in at least a year, so I'm paraphrasing what she says. But she says something to the effect of, "He's still here. He's alive. He's not dead." That's the Matrix trilogy ends with Neo having a ego death. The ego death of Mr. Anderson, the ego death of Mr. Smith, and the ego death of Neo. This is why I say he wasn't just Neo and he wasn't just Smith. He was so much more. And likewise with yourself. You aren't just Neo. You are so much more. You are the entire Matrix. You've written the entire book. You knew that yesterday you were going to have this for dinner, and that yesterday you had 2 ways to get home. You were going to choose that way. You've written this book already, but you're only forgetting that you are the programmer. You have already written this. So the pandemic and all these things, you are doing this. This is the secret the Freemasons hold so dearly, and so many people want to know their secret. Here it is. They don't fight. They don't resist. They know what's in control. Even if they roll out an executive order or sign a new legal document, they know it was already written in the cosmic plan. It already is. That's what Ram Dass was talking about when he talks about spirituality truly just being about acceptance. So many people are getting into spirituality because we want more control. How can I more control my experience? Not what it's about at all. If it's more control you seek, it's the ego that's trying to hold on and possess. And of course, the ego always wants more and more and more and more. That's why when the ego makes one discovery, it's never satisfied. On to the next. I just found a groundbreaking discovery. Am I satisfied? Am I retired? No. On to the next. The ego always needs more. So as far as the people getting sick from the vaccine, the only thing I can explain for that is their body cannot handle the mutation. We are all the same being. Our body has the same functions, but obviously they're not all functioning the same way, right? So not everyone's going to respond in the same way to the vaccine. But the common denominator to what the vaccine is bringing is gene mutation. We're constantly changing, we're constantly evolving, and that's one thing that the human race loves to deny is evolution. And the reason we deny evolution is because, again, we're convinced and sold that we are just human. We could not be anything else. Just human. So no, I didn't evolve from an ape. No, I didn't evolve from this or from that. Yes, you did. All is one. If you are everything, you are everywhere. You are not limited to one form, to one name, to one anything. You are everywhere. This is what I mean by the ego cannot handle infinity. It cannot handle infinity because it starts driving itself mad. How can I be everyone, everywhere, in all places, all things? It can't fathom. It cannot grasp. This is what an ego death is. To abolish the ego completely. This is why Buddha taught what was called total death. After Buddha awakened from his 7 years in the forest, he came back to population and he started a community, and the people coming to his community for spiritual assistance, he told them, the core of my teaching is total death. What he was bringing to his students was a teaching called total death. How many people would sign up for that in today's age? How many people would pay their money for a teaching called total death? Any takers? I guarantee almost nobody would be signing up for this. Because again, we're not ready for that comfort to be disturbed in that immediate moment. We think we are, but then the moment comes and we're left scrambling, we're left backtracking. It's like Buddha says, the problem is you think you have time. Now is all there is. Now is not a time, it is a presence. And it is always that presence. You are always in that presence. It does not matter if you're at work, at the store, at home, at the mail, at your aunts, at your cousins, it doesn't matter. That presence is with you because every place, person, thing is that presence. And this is why no other being can give you truth. The ultimate truth is happening right within you. When Whitney Houston talks about finding the greatest love of all within herself, it sounds funny. That's what she's talking about. The greatest love of all, the greatest light of all is happening within you all the time. The most powerful truth is you. You are a walking truth. Truth is your experience, and nobody can take that from you. Nobody can diminish that from you. Nobody can change that or give you any more truth than you already have. Truth is yours. It is your being. It is your birthright. But what's happening is we have people on social media selling you truth. They're bringing you truth. They're giving you something that you don't have when you've had it the whole time. So that's the great catch. Nobody is bringing you anything. Nobody is bringing you truth. You've had it the whole time. Everything you're looking for, you've had it the whole time. Everything you think you're not, it's here the whole time. But we base everything we think we're not on everything we think we are. And that's why we have that mirror. We bounce what we believe we are off of what we believe we're not. And that's why we have that duality, to bounce these thoughts and ideas and concepts off of one another, off of the opposite thing. But when you realize there is truly no opposite, these are just concepts, these are just smoke and mirrors, these are all part of the one presence, then you are home. Because home is not delineated to one infrastructure, one building, where you bring all your possessions or where you sleep at night at the end of the day. That's not what home is. Home is your presence. This is why if you're depressed in your house, you will bring that depression outward to you. I don't care if you're going to your mom's or your brother's or your most favorite relative. If you're depressed in your house, you bring that depression with you to the person you're going to see, to the place you're going to, because the person and place are that presence itself. That presence is the symbol, the Hindu symbol, where it says all sounds, all things come from one all-pervading, all-permeating thing, and it's that that presence. All sound, all words must go through that presence. There is no word until presence. And that's just the trick. presence is not coming or going. It's not birthing or dying. Never born, never died. What does that mean? What the hell is he talking about? I am presence. I am not person. I am not place. And I am not thing. These are concepts that we are bound to through the mind. But I have found myself beyond these words. So, what is actually beginning and ending beyond the concept I have of I? If I attach I to mind body, now you have a problem. Now you have something needing to be escaped from. Because I am now in this body. I am now in this huge place. And how do I get out? How do I find my way back home? As above, so below. As within, so without. They are one and the same. What that quote means is you are acknowledging as above, so below. What that acknowledges is not that there are two. Not that there is above and below. No. Above, below. It's one presence. There is not two functions, above and below. There is only one presence. And it's when those two become the one presence. When the above and below merge into one presence. When the within and without are found in one presence. You have attained the sovereignty. As the body, so the soul. When you merge what you have called body and soul, body and spirit, into a single unity, a single presence, you have attained the sovereignty. This is how Enoch became Metatron. So many who read the book of Metatron take it literal, that man could literally become immortal. Man could literally do something to achieve becoming God. Human is an entity existent in the mind, and God is an entity existent in the mind. Man becomes God when you pull back the curtain and realize they're the same character playing different roles, and they're both you. They both begin and end with your presence. You have spoken the words into each of them. They each began through your presence. You conceived God and man both. You conceived both the people and government. You have conceived both good and bad. You have conceived both light and dark. This is why I say we are that powerful. This is why I'm constantly challenging people. I want to see us in our highest potential. Not settling. Not tricking ourselves. We left religion because we were tired of tricking ourselves. We were tired of fooling ourselves. That's what spirituality is for. When you have exhausted all your efforts on getting the real experience, you're tired of fooling yourself, that is when you leave religion behind. Spirituality is about becoming the phoenix, the rising phoenix. When you enter into spirituality, you are saying that you are ready to die at any moment. Either physical, mental, or spiritual. You are ready to go at any moment. That to me is spirituality. Any moment, you can take the body, the soul, the mind. I'm home. I am home. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, they're all one and the same, right? So it's the same thing. Mind, body, soul. Mind, body, spirit. They're all one and the same. Again, these are concepts. We can look at this form and say this is a body. We can look at a human brain and say this is the mind. We can look at a spirit and say this is the soul. These are still concepts we have of ourselves. You must get to the source of all concept. The concept is not the real thing. The source, the presence within you, is what makes it real. So to that question of what's real and fake, what's reality? There is none. Something within you makes everything real, makes everything come to life. But make no mistake, it is not the concepts that you have birthed that are real. The concepts are not real. They appear to be real because we have mistaken ourselves as something real in a terribly false world. Remember that from Alice in Wonderland? We're suffering so much because we're mistaking ourselves as something terribly real in a terrible false world. And like I said, I realize that I'm gonna get backlash. I'm gonna have people, upset and lashing out at me. Yesterday was pretty tough with the people and responding to my vaccine posts and all that. I don't get angry at it because I understand the anger. I understand why. I understand that these people are their fear is valid, right? And this is very real. Just because I don't share in their fear or see what they see does not mean I don't understand where their anger is coming from. I understand the fear. I totally do, because I've been on this path. I've been at that point. If you would have showed me my videos, the ones that I'm putting out, or I have been putting out for the past 5 years, if you would have showed me my videos 10 years ago, where I'm talking about we are artificial intelligence, we are one and the same, I would have said to myself, this guy is Satan, this guy is a devil. He's trying to fool everyone into becoming an AI or a machine. Believe me, if anyone understands the threat or the imminent danger that it feels like you are actually being threatened by these things. I do. I understand, because I was that person. I was terrified. Terrified of artificial intelligence. Terrified of virtual reality. But these are mirrors I had to look into. And I had to lose myself to begin finding parts of myself that I never knew existed. And the more I began looking into these mirrors, the more I saw there's nowhere that I am not. There is no place that I am not. In the sun, in the blade of grass, in the trees, in the tree trunk, in the birds singing, I am everywhere. I am it. And so are you. We are not limited. There is no separation. I've witnessed people, before my videos were more focused on the universe and stuff like that. And as soon as I changed my video content to feature in artificial intelligence, it was the same thing that I got yesterday. A bunch of messages telling me I've sold out, telling me that, I've taken a bribe, or I'm trying to make money now, or I'm, far gone, and I don't know, all these things, right? I've heard it all. But I understand. It's nothing new. When I started featuring artificial intelligence, people were telling me I was government paid and that I'm, sold out. Then I started featuring 5G. Told people, don't worry about 5G, don't panic. Accept it, embrace it. I got backlash again. Now, the vaccine, the pandemic. I'm telling people, surrender, don't panic, don't fight. More backlash. That's what people don't understand. So many people want to know how Jesus could be tortured when his whole message was surrender, submit, don't fight. He's not making you surrender. He's sharing the advice. You should surrender. The fighting does nothing. Yet we don't realize, how could the Romans just beat this man for trying to get people to surrender, submit? The backlash that I face through verbal words is almost the same beating. All I'm doing is saying surrender, submit. And it's a verbal. So if you want to understand how people could be so hate-driven, or how could someone do that to someone else, that's how. I say the word backlash because my message has not changed for 5 years, 4 or 5 years now. And so I tell people, if you're just now becoming offended at what I've said, or something that was said in a topic or video, it's nothing new. It's nothing that I have not been saying in the last video that you hearted, in the last video that you hearted, in the last video that you hearted. So somewhere, either you weren't listening, you weren't paying attention, or you mistaken what I've said. But the message has not changed, has not swayed. I am saying the literal same thing 4 years ago as today. So I urge people, I'm not urging you to get vaccinated. I'm not promoting anything. What I'm promoting is you to challenge yourself. People ask me, how do I know so much? How am I able to do these videos and just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and not have to think about these things? I've gone into the deepest parts of myself that are in everyone. These deep parts that I've gone into are in everyone. It's just not everyone is persistent enough to continue their journey until they find what they're looking for. So for me, there was no choice. There was no option. I knew my purpose. I know why I'm here. And it was to know who I am. I didn't care if I had to be driven to pay the price of death itself. I was so persistent. I was so thirsty. I was willing to trade my life to know, which is why it was so easy to surrender. I wanted to know that bad. Therefore, I was willing to go into depths of myself that some will refuse until they're on their deathbed, and even still will refuse to even look in these places. But that's all it takes. That's all it takes for you to look within yourself and go into those deep, dark places that you most avoid. Go into those deep, dark places that come alive in your mind when you are going to sleep at night. That's when your real thoughts come about. Throughout the day, you're just numbing the mind to keep the mind busy and distracted. But at nighttime, when you put your head on that pillow to sleep, it's associated with death, and it's made very clear in that moment that one day you are going to have to die. Sleep is associated with death. So it's like tasting death or touching death every night when you sleep. You're aware that one day this is what you are going to turn into. And so this is why at night, when we're in sleep or trying to go to sleep, the mind comes to life with all its thoughts. Because now the real thoughts can begin. Now the real questions can begin. Throughout your day, that's just distraction. That's just surface level to keep you distracted, to keep you from actually facing those thoughts coming to life at night. But that is where you will see your growth. If you really want to know, you must begin looking into these depths of yourself. And understand that this is a process. It comes with a mourning process, and it sounds really scary, but this is what spirituality is, the rising phoenix. It comes with a mourning process, and that mourning process is the mourning of yourself, an ego death. It brings tears, it brings crying, it brings valid feelings to surface that you must purge through and feel. You must mourn the death of yourself to properly experience a full ego death. It must feel real to you. It must feel as if you are actually dying. Therefore, you're purging out the actual emotion of if you were to actually simulate you dying. Because only then, when you have purged and released, do you see clear what actually is, and share the greatest laugh with yourself when you realize you've attached beginning and end to the misconception you have had over yourself. So I'm going to wrap up this video. I've shared some pretty good points on here. Yeah. I encourage you to do whatever preserves your body longer. Whatever you think is going to preserve your experience or preserve what you think to be yourself in this experience anymore. Do that. Whether it be fighting, whether it be resisting, whether it be submitting, whether it be surrendering, whatever it looks like to you, whatever feels good to you, whatever you trust in, I encourage that. Do what you think is going to preserve who you believe you are. Because as I've said, you are inevitable. And I know what we are inevitably being led to. So it's not a matter of if, but when. And when you are ready, you will. But I make these videos for those who are ready for that next step, ready to leave behind religious practices. And when I say religious practices, I mean doing things to improve the quality of your life. Becoming more self-aware, self-conscious, so that you can properly see that no doing can ever improve what you are. You are it. You are not what is doing here, and that's why when you do, you are unsatisfied. You have mistaken yourself as the doer, and that's why the ego is in this game of constantly doing to improve the quality of its life. It's convincing itself that what it's doing is increasing the quality of its life. The same way someone that's doing by going to church, receiving the communion, and taking the body of Christ assumes it's improving the quality of their life. For those people who want the next step, I can show you the door very easily. You must walk through it. And what does he say? I didn't say it would be easy. I just said it would be the truth. And that's what it is. The truth isn't what we want it to be. The truth is what it is. And you either bend to it or live a lie. That's why I say you cannot lie to yourself. You can't fool yourself. For those in spirituality, we're here because we were tired of doing this. We were tired of fooling ourselves through religion. We were tired of worshiping an experience when that experience is possible right here and now. Why aren't we good enough? Why aren't we worth it? Why can't I have that experience too? Why can only one man achieve this? But it's very clear. This isn't just the story of one man. There are many gods, there are many Buddhas, there are many gurus that have achieved this, showing you your highest potential, showing you what you are capable of. Jesus is just the most common, the most popularized, but they are all you. You have done this many times. You have awakened many times and shared your discoveries with yourself, with your reflections. Every incarnation has been you, through the very same presence. Through that presence, you become name, you become form, you become person. But if you want to unravel yourself to remember what you were before you became, remember presence and stay with that. That is meditation, presence. I can be at work, at home, in the shower, standing, sleeping, sitting. I'm in meditation because I am in presence. I know presence comes first. I know that all places in this world are the singular presence. I know that all people in this world are the singular presence. There is nowhere that God is not. That's why the Bible talks about God always watching you. God's always listening to you. Because that presence fills everything. There's nowhere presence is not. There's nowhere you are not. Exactly, Ida. And that's a key point right there. Who is the one meditating? Bingo. Just like the question, who's the one awakening? When you awaken, you realize no one has awakened. You have awakened from the separate self that was a someone. But you truly are no one. No one is awakening. It's a beautiful point. No one is meditating. And that's why I tell people you can't make meditation a doing. Meditation is not a doing because that's how that happens. Just right there. When meditation becomes a doing, now you have someone who is meditating. So to answer your question, who is meditating? When you have the ego doing to meditate, now it's ego that's meditating. That's not meditation. It's trying to force meditation, which is presence, just being present, into a doing. So let me put on spiritual music, let me cross my legs and sit in this room in silence. And that doing, that act of doing, the spiritual music, the sitting in one spot, the staring and sitting in silence, that doing, now I'm in meditation. Now we're meditating. But all the ego's actually doing is it's pretending to be, or pretending that it's doing something to get to where it already is. So in other words, we don't feel we're in the presence of meditation until that spiritual music comes on. We don't feel we're in the presence of meditation until the legs are become crossed. We don't feel we're in the presence of meditation until the eyes become closed, or we sit completely still, or there's completely silence. Now the presence of meditation becomes clear, or comes forth to you. But this is the great misconception. This is what I'm talking about us fooling ourselves. It is through this practice that you will feel like meditation is pointless. It does nothing for you. You're tricking yourself. If you actually think this practice of meditation will improve the quality of your life. And I'm not saying it's not good to give yourself moments of silence throughout the day, but not in that fashion. Not to where you're calling it meditation. It's what Buddha said. Meditation should become a backdrop to your life. You should forget you're even meditating because you are always in meditation. It should not be a word or a doing or a place or a practice. Meditation is constant. And the minute you leave meditation, you have lost presence and slipped into ego. And even when you get angry, you can still be in meditation and get angry. The grounding level of that anger, though, is, I am not this anger, I am presence. So once I feel this anger and purge it, release it, I am free. I am not this anger or this temporary feeling or emotion. I am presence. That is meditation. So can you be meditating while you're angry, while you're fuming? Absolutely. You purge the feeling, you purge the emotion, and remain grounded in presence. That is meditation. And with that, I must leave. So, namaste. I hope this video has helped a lot of people. Hope it's answered some questions, especially in light or in lieu of yesterday. But regardless, like I said, I understand everyone's point of view. Whether you agree or not, disagree, even the people who say I'm full of crap and I don't know what I'm talking about, I understand. I understand the point of view. I understand the point of view of both sides of it. I get it. So it's nothing personal. Yeah, I'm going to continue making more videos. I'd like to try and start being more transparent into my daily life with these videos, because like I said, no one's teaching should be separate from their life. Your life is your teaching, and your teaching is your life. It's the same thing. They're inseparable. So yeah, if anyone has any questions or thoughts they'd like to add to this video, feel free to do so. But I'll have this on my YouTube channel, Red Pill Rabbit Hole. If not, I'll see you next time. Enjoy the day.